collides with the electron, the position of the electron is disturbed, and there is, you see, this observer versus the observed dichotomy happening in the quantum theory. So probably there is something very deep, and my purpose is to raise the question here more than give any definite answer, because I believe that the purpose of this conference is to really initiate different streams of research actually into some of the useful question, and if we can isolate at least even a few meaningful questions where good meaningful research can happen, then I would think that the purpose of the meeting will be well served. The problems in modern cosmology, even though it has been very greatly successful, the modern cosmology has severe problems. That is what I would like to emphasize. It is not that we know today everything on the universe, despite all the insight and all the instruments and millions and billions of dollars we have been spending. It's not that we know the universe. The first problem is homogeneity problem. When you see the universe, you see into its far depths, here, there, different directions, and if you take suppose a big volume in this direction, a big volume in this direction, that direction, then roughly the same number of galaxies are there. That means the universe is homogeneous on a very large scale. Now, if you work out the equations, which I do not display here today, of the Einstein theory of relativity, if you work out the equations, then you find that these different regions had no time to interact with each other in the past. There was no interaction between different regions which are looking homogeneous today, and then how did the universe become so homogeneous if the regions had no time really to interact in the past? So we do not understand this. Lot of theory and lot of work, especially the inflationary models that modern cosmology is working out. Again, we will see if there is time and if there is interest, and I would like to stick to my time. The other very important problem is that of space-time singularity. So Einstein theory necessarily predicts that the universe originated from what is called a space-time singularity. Now the singularity is such an epoch. Unlike the so-called creation mechanisms of various religious traditions, the singularity is an epoch where the energy densities, the temperatures, all physical quantities, they were to their extreme. They were divergent in nature, and then from a very hot Big Bang, the universe cooled. But then singularity is the epoch which we simply don't understand at all. What it is, what really happened there, why it gave rise to the universe as a whole, we have absolutely no idea on that. So if we admit on both the sides, just as I was saying earlier that scientific traditions are not being followed when we sometimes talk of ancient traditions, in the same way modern cosmologists have to also admit their ignorance. And finally, the quantum gravity problem, that is, we have no idea whatsoever. On one hand, we have Einstein theory of relativity. On the other hand, which is describing the universe very well. On the other hand, we have the quantum. And then the two simply do not match. Their formalisms are so different from each other. So we need to see in some integrated way in the universe, maybe through the scientific methodology as well as the eye of the mind, as Einstein himself advocated. Next, the integrated picture. All that I want to say is that, you see, modern, quantum theory, as I said, let me, just say very briefly what I want to say, is that the modern quantum theory has raised a big issue, you see, of the observer versus the observed. And now, just, observing the universe from one perspective is not enough. From the perspective of Einstein gravity, you are observing the cosmos. From the perspective of quantum theory, you are observing the micro universe. So maybe these are the two different, facts, two different realms of reality. Now, one question that I can ask is that, can we learn something here? You see, from the Anekantavad of Mahavir. Tirthankar Mahavir did say that the truth has many facets, whereas the modern science wants to, capture the entire truth in one equation. So really we need to go into detail, into depth, that do we need to see the truth from very many different perspectives and then come back, to the entirety? In mathematics, what is called integration. So do we need a different method of integration? This is, a deep subject. I think I leave this deep question for maybe some future discussion, because time must be, respected. But the important point that we would like to, emphasize is that, is modern cosmology following the, Andha Gajanyaya? This is a very, well-known simile given. That is, you touch the elephants in, different ways, and you have your own truth and you claim it to be the reality. So we have, in our own way, we do have the parts of the reality, but how to get the picture of the elephant as a whole? But let us just move on. What we really need is to find and obtain specific examples. You see, that is what we really need. Unless we, obtain specific examples, and this is very, very important. So I'll repeat the third time, that unless we sort of obtain very specific examples of connections between, the modern science and the ancient philosophical traditions, all our exercise, like the ones that we are, indulging into, will be, in my view, my own humble view, not very fruitful. We will have to come down to, finally getting the specific examples. Like take Anekantvad, go into the intricacies of the same, use the mathematics that we have. Can we give modern science some insights? On the other hand, go back and go forth. Back and forth. This back and forth interaction is very inevitable, and for that purpose, it is extremely important that both the sides leave their egos apart and come together, you see, in the spirit of inquiry together. Both the sides have enough egos, if I put it that way, right or wrong. Okay, so careful research and investigation and collaboration between modern scientists and Indian scholars. This is the need of the time. And those who know the Indian traditions well. So this is inevitable. Unless that is done, we cannot make further progress. We are out of time. Okay. So can I take one more minute? Okay. Okay, I think there was another, example that I wanted to give you, that of, the galaxies and the Jain concept of lokas, but I think that has to be on another occasion. Let us just go further. Okay. Okay, is that the last slide? Okay, fine. Just go before that. Fine. So fine. Unless we do this kind of action-oriented plan, then there is only the hope of further progress. Thank you.
The next talk that we have here is by Dr. Jora Jain. Yes. He has won National Award for Fabrication and Experience in Research and Teaching for 20 years, and he will be presenting on Ancient Map of Universe and Modern Science.
Respected chair, people on the dais, and fellow scientists and guests, I shall talk about the contents of the universe. The first question is whether this Loka map in Jainism create contradictions with modern geography. This paper aims at finding a suitable answer to it. Several modern geographical findings seem to run contrary to the postulates of the so-called Jain geography, like the earth is stationary, or it is flat like a disk, or the moon is farther from earth than the nearest star, which is 4 light years away. May I know from this audience whether there is any scientist who believes in this Jain geography? There are 3, 4. Okay, we can discuss that one. I'll pose one question. Can you find out a solution for the problem that there are thousands of satellites moving around the earth from India, from America, etc.? So what is the solution for it? Just think of and then let me know. This paper tries to meet this challenge. What is this? If scientists do not believe in this one, then they are not creating any problem in the minds of the youngsters, or they are creating the problem in the youngsters because they read differently in their schools. By definition, people who do not believe in scientifically well-proven things due to their prejudices and wrong interpretation of Jinvani, they are becoming the victims of Abhiniveshika Mithyatva. Is it not a big problem plaguing the whole community? This present research provides a solution for it. Let us have a relook at ancient modern Loka. Shown here in the left figure is a part of modern universe and the Jain Loka map. We know for certain the exact shape of our blue planet Earth in the modern universe. Scientists also know that there are several other exoplanets scattered throughout the world. If we try to depict all of them by Mercator projection, will it look like the flat disk of Jambudvipa? Obviously no. Then what are the other options available for their depiction? It is clear that the universe is so vast that its contents cannot be depicted by cartography method. That is, it cannot be a Mercator projection or a geographical map. The rishis could have also not resorted to any jumbled and ad hoc method. The map, which emerges from the sutras, looks to be a very systematic presentation of its contents than what it could be. Scholars have all along been considering the map to be a cartographical map and interpreting its features accordingly. But when its fallacy started giving them problems, they started speculating several things in an ad hoc manner without analyzing systematically the actual cause of the problem. Let us first understand the scope of different methods of presentation. Scope of a chart. A ring or any geometrical shape in a statistical chart is a collective presentation of living or non-living matter of similar states and types found in the entire universe. Actual physical contours of an individual entity and its relative distance from other similar units of the group just vanish in a collective mode of statistical presentation. There is no concept of altitude or latitude found in cartographical presentation, whereas in a cartography, actual physical features as seen in aerial projection of an individual entity are shown as a continuous, seamless unit in a physical geographical map. The sizes and shapes are shown to a scale. We shall do a few exercises to understand this scope properly. Let us refresh our memory as to how different a particular type of objects look in cartographical and statistical maps. Here in figure 1 on the left side, continents and oceans are shown geographically, that is by Mercator projection. They are depicted in statistical method in figure 2 and figure 3. Similarly, all the mountains and rivers of a geographical unit, probably like one continent in figure 4 on the left side, are depicted in figure 5 in form of a chart. In figure 4, the shapes and contours of mountains and rivers, their mutual distances are shown as per aerial projection. In the statistical figure 5, all the mountains are clubbed together and are collectively shown as one unit in a regular geometrical shape at some convenient location as percentage of total land mass. Look very similar to the features, this figure 5, to the features found in pictograph of Jambudvipa. Remain there, please. While pondering over these mountains, a query comes to mind as to what is the actual scientific method to depict these disconnected mountains or mountain entities to a connected, seamless area. Next, please. Geographical map, which in principle is an aerial projection, obviously cannot do it. Conclusion, next please. We find from the above exercise that the ornamental looking shape and style of statistical figures resemble very well with the LOCA map. It should help us get rid of our mental blocks of cartography so that henceforth we will not raise futile queries of cartographical nature about the LOCA map. This revolutionary idea that the contents of the LOCA have been presented statistically to reveal them at a glance is expected to help decipher the various facets and faculties of LOCA meaningfully in modern terms. Contents of actual cosmological pictograph. Our LOCA pictograph depicts the biological communities of various types in relation to its abiotic environment, that is classes of beings and the types of their bodies and non-living substances classified, categorized, arranged symmetrically in the different phases, states, and modes. With this type of scope, the contents of the LOCA appear to have been presented in the following type of statistical model. The visible universe, termed as middle LOCA, is divided in two parts. The first part contains all the visible light-reflecting entities comprising of matter in its first three phases. It is depicted as pairs of land liquid mass. The second part contains all the visible light-emitting cosmic entities comprising of matter in its fourth phase, that is plasma. It is depicted as Jyotish Loka, the starry world. The underground materials of all the cosmic bodies are depicted as lower Loka in its various metamorphic phases, which are dependent on pressure and temperature. There are 7 states found inside a dense cosmic body. Upper Loka, the lower one, comprises of all the invisible matter of entire Loka at deep temperatures, probably like Einstein boson condensates or quark condensates, etc. Such a biotic environment found here can obviously support only special type of protein-bodied living beings as mentioned in the scriptures. Now a pertinent question. Can the geographical anomalies like the mismatches about flat and stationary Earth, location of Mahavidya Kshetra, day and night on Earth, distances of moon and stars, etc., in Lokakash map with the modern scientific findings be clarified or resolved satisfactorily by this novel method of interpretation? Raising this type of queries is quite but natural when we interpret the LOCA map as a conventional cartographic map. But we have already seen that Jambudvipa is not a geographical entity. It is a collective statistical unit of several Earth-like entities. Geographical features like contour, shape, and motion, etc., of any individual member cannot be derived from this merged Jambudvipa unit. In fact, the mismatches have been created by misunderstanding and wrong interpretation of the pictograph of Middle Loka. It is theoretically wrong to interpret a pictograph in geographical terms. It would therefore be futile to comment, that is, to contradict or support the findings of modern geography, whether our Earth is rotating or spherical. One has to just throw away the yoke of cartographic maps. Just as a book of economics cannot explain symptoms of diabetes or heart ailments, a pictograph cannot provide direct answers to geographical queries and issues pertaining to any individual cosmic entity of a cosmic unit. Other revelations in MEPA. Recently, remote sensing satellites have taken pictures of several planets and satellites of many solar systems. Several types of liquids like salty or milky water, oils, alcohol, liquid ethane, etc. have been discovered there in outer space. These discoveries validate the existence of different types of oceans as mentioned in pictograph of Middle Loka. In the Loka chart, the human civilizations scattered throughout the universe have been grouped together and presented in the first 2.5 units. The clubbing offers ground for the scientists to take further research. The problems and challenges of switching over. Problem. Once we are convinced that all the living and non-living contents of Loka are depicted, then why this concept is not getting implemented to facilitate removal of Abhiniveshik Mithyatva? What is at stake? The entire old edifice, comprising of various systems of creating commentaries, enrichment of texts about Loka, and other compulsions of contemporary acharyas, supported on the pillars of cartographic interpretation of scriptures, developed probably over the last 2,000 years after the original method was erased from their memory, is at stake. It would be a Herculean task to find the original pure pictograph from the encroached and superimposed one with cartographic details and ideas of past acharyas. What are the challenges? It is also obvious that no single acharya or scholar alone can implement such a revolutionary idea on his own. Hence, it is now a big challenge for the society to coordinate with different acharyas for its trial runs, systematization, and implementation. My humble request to the whole society would be to please create a strong and active apex body, a trans-sectarian platform like probably Bhagwan Mahavira International Research Center, to maybe the appropriate platform to take up the challenge of implementation of this novel interpretation system. It can develop complete interpretations of various facets of Loka and work for globalizing the benefits of this discovery. Finally, who would be courageous enough to become the agent of this radical change? To sum up, we have discussed 5 points: discovery of a new method to crack the mystery, escaping from Abhiniveshik Mithyatva through this method, resolution of present contradictions, some potential new findings, and challenges in implementing the novel code. Thank you.
Now I request Professor J.J. Rawal from Indian Planetary Society, Mumbai, India, to make a presentation on nature of the universe regarding space, time, and reality in modern science and in Jain philosophy. I invite him. He was the former director of Nehru Planetarium, Worli, Mumbai, and the founder president of the Indian Planetary Society. He is also a visiting professor at the University of Mumbai.
Chairperson, Professor Narendra Bhandari, and other dignitaries and Mahamuni, and learned fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed very much happy to be here to express my thoughts about the nature of the universe regarding space, time, and reality in modern science and in Jain philosophy. In this international conference of science and Jainism, that one point cannot determine the space. It can at most determine the black hole. Professor Joshi is here. And when second point comes into being, then we can find the distance between 2 points, and then space is generated. And that generates the linear dimension, one-dimensional space, which is infinite. And here you can see that, and we can define the distance. So the formula for distance measurement has been discovered or was given by Indian sage Baudhaina 200 years before Pythagoras. So we are at the base. This is meter scale. This is a measuring tape, and it measured the whole universe. Einstein did nothing but modified the Baudhaina theorem for 4 dimensions. Because here next one, so here you can see